How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Waze Editing. Today we are going to be going over everybody's fan favorite, the road segments. This is for all of you noob people that are out there trying to get your hands on that sweet Waze editing points. And this is one of the fan favorites everybody loves to do is the road segments. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, in as everybody can see, we have the regular road segments. As you can see, there's also two different color of road segments. That means that this one is a regular local street, and this one is a primary street. We also have the gray ones, which are for parking lots, and then you have your green and blue ones, which is for major highway and minor highway. You can also see that I also have the city overlay on for this one. So we're going to go to roads, and then we're just gonna just draw one right here because we're just drawing this one up. Okay, we're gonna get more in advance into this, but over here to your left hand side, you have your general, your road closures, and your lanes. You won't have to worry about these two because that's for level 3 and above. So if this street had a name, we would name it what we can. If there's also another name as local by, we could change. We could do that too. So we could scroll down and say like Long Street. If we wanted to add Long Road, boom, it automatically present fills in the city and the state. Now, okay. So this is in green, basically showing. Actually, yeah, right here. Okay, so if you're looking very closely, if we zoom in, see this darker green line right here. That means that all of this green, right, just dark green right here, is considered Columbus. And everything in this purple over here is Pinkerton. Okay? So when making your roads, and you see this part right here, it's not in the dark green, it's not in the purple, it's like its own little area. Meaning that if you were to make this road and it wasn't a part of a city, would you add a none to get rid of the city, or would you add a city of whatever is nearby? Hmm? Well, the answer to that is if it's within the city limits, you would want to add a city, so it would be Columbus. But technically, since it's not a part of the city, the CDP, then you wouldn't add one. So when creating this segment, you would add a none for this. And then for the street, okay, hold on. We'll go back down to Long Street. So we don't have to type this out. Guess a whole bunch of freaking names. Okay, so yeah, you even have like now and Columbus or whatever. You click none, hit apply. So that means this address is Long Road, but it has no city because it's not a part of the city. You gotta always remember that because if you add a road and you say it's like Columbus, but it's not technically in Columbus, it, it can mess up some things. Like, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to make a what they call that as it's a smudge. So you want to make sure that your address you're putting your cities correctly. That's why it's always good to have the cities layers on. And if you want to add the name thing, you can add the name thing too. I don't really need the name thing. But yeah, so you want to make sure that you're keeping everything where it's supposed to be. Alternative address. So since this is technically inside of Columbus, but it's not in Columbus, you can add the alternative for Columbus. So Columbus. Okay, for some reason Waze is not allowing you to do lowercase anymore. It's weird. Uppercase that, and then you could do Long Road, and then add that. So you know that the primary city is a no city because it's not in a part in a city, but the alternative is Columbus because it's within the area of Columbus. You see like right here. Then the street type. This is where you can go freeway, interstate, which would change the color of it. Um, we also have ramps, which would turn it gray. We have major and minor highway. So major highway is like your actual expressways. Minor highway is like something like US 23 or something like a state route or something like that. We'll go more in depth into the different types when it comes to these ones right here, but you won't really have to worry about that until you get to a higher level. The ones you're going to most likely going to be dealing with starting out is going to be the primary city or primary street, which is going to be this yellow one. And then you have your street, your passageway, which we don't use, off-road, non-maintained. We don't really put those on the map. Your parking lot road, if this was a parking lot. We also use parking lot roads for apartment complexes because sometimes it's not like a primary or like a local street. It's more like because it also is a parking lot too. So we use the parking lot roads for those too. Ferry we don't use. Railroads you won't have to worry about that. And runaway you won't be doing those too. So for instance for this one we will say this one is a parking lot road. Road. It is paved. It is not a tunnel. Doesn't require headlights. If it was a tunnel, it would probably more likely gonna need headlights. But we're not doing any tunnels. Carpool, we don't do that as far as I know right now. If it's a one way or two way, if it's a two way, it goes both ways. If it's a one way, it shows you with the arrows going across which way that it's going to be going. So it was A to B, so it's this from A to B, or from B to A. You can see that the arrows are pointing the opposite way. That is for a one-way street. If it's unknown, which is something new that they recently added, yeah, it's pretty much like a two-way too. Speed limit, we want to make this 25 because it pretty much is going to be a residential. And then if there's a speed camera, you can add one there too. If you need to lock it up, most streets, local streets, primary streets most of the time, and see parking lot roads, local streets, some primary streets are all level ones. Primary streets can differ depending on where they're at. Major and minor highways always going to be higher level. So as you level up, you can unlock more. So most people who are starting out are just going to be level 1 or auto. When you hit level 2, it'll show 1 and 2. Once you hit level 3, it'll show 1, 2, and 3. Elevation is going to be ground. We don't need to move that. And pretty much all you have to do is come over here and hit save. And then it pops up all the errors because it's not connected to anything. So we'll hit edit and we'll just click on this node and we'll just say it goes right there. The other things too, wait, did it snap? Okay. That's the other thing too we need to do. So since we connected to this one, it's gonna say disconnect, it's not gonna go to any of those. So what you need to do is you need to click on the node and hit allow all turns. So that means if you hit this one, it says it can go that way. Hit this way, it goes that way. If you hit this one, it goes that way. And same way with this way, it goes like that. Got to make sure you definitely make sure, because back in the day when I used to edit, yeah, it does snap, okay, because it never used to snap. Back in the day, like you could actually like do it like that. And if you're like far away, it looks like it's actually connected like this. You look at it, you're like, oh yeah, it's connected. And then you like click on the thing and it's not showing any arrows. That means it's not connected. You gotta make sure that they are connected. Because if they're not connected, they're not gonna work. So you have to make sure that you definitely connect them. And now that they do snap, it'll show you the arrows. And if you click off of it and click back onto it, now you know that now you can go individually and go through all of these and select green on all of them if you want. Or you can just click on the little dot in the middle and just hit allow all turns. If you don't want to disable them all again, you can do that. Or if there's certain ones like, okay, say for instance, you only can go right and you can't go left, you can hit that one so you know that when you're leaving out of this road right here, you can't make a left turn, but you can make a right turn and you can go straight. Well, more than likely, it's going to have like one of them little Y things, so you can pretty much probably only go right. And you pretty much couldn't go straight. So you'd probably want to disable this one and that one so that when you leave out of this road, you only could go right on the long road. Like that. Pretty much. If there is a restriction on a node, if I can pull this up, hold up. hit allow, click this. If you hover over it, you'll see your restrictions. So if you need to change your voice prompt, like say make a continue, a left, or right, you can change the voice prompt. Sometimes when you're editing in Waze and you may add a road, and then later on someone reports like it told me to turn continue right or whatever, but it should or turn right, but it should be like continue straight or something. We've had that before where the voice prompt said something else when it's supposed to be something. It was when the visual actually shows with the proper way. So you can always change it to here. The instructions, that's more for a level 4 editor stuff, but that's for like highways and other stuff, connection things. Restrictions. So if you want to, say for instance, you're at an intersection and you can't make a left turn between a certain time and a certain time, you would go to your restrictions. You'd say what days they are, from what time to what time. You'd select a time to time or all day, and then you select the every week. Basically, it's a continuous every week. It'll never stop. Or you can select, say for instance, like construction or something. You can't make a left turn. You could set a certain start date and a certain end date. So then once the end date stops, the restriction goes away. And then if there's still construction, you can always re-add it again later on. For the driving, you do allowed or prohibited. So if it was a left, can't turn a left turn between 8 and 5, you would do a prohibited, and then you'd say all vehicles. Or if it's only certain type of vehicles, you can hit only and then only select certain type of vehicles. But more than likely, it's going to be all the vehicles. And then if there's more information, say for instance construction, you type in construction. Down here, you would hit apply or hit add. It would add it right here, so you know that it is not allowed on that one. So if you hit apply again, you will see, you click on this, it's yellow now, showing that there's a restriction. And then you hit the edit restrictions, you can see that it's all day, every day, you can't go straight. But if it's just a permanent no turn, and then then you need to just disable it altogether. But if it's just a certain time or if it's like construction, then you could do a restriction on it. Difficult turn basically meaning like if this was a minor highway or is a highway and you needed to get to onto the highway from a local street, you could add the difficult turn, say yes. So basically meaning from certain time to certain time, it's going to be like a lot of traffic because it's rush hour. So you would add a difficult turn for a specific time period, so then it would make sure that people aren't getting routed that way. Um, because it's a lot more difficult. You can in your settings, in your app settings in Waze, you can enable difficult turns or disable difficult turns. But we only use that if it's basically if it's hard to turn during a certain times because of traffic or it might be some other things. I'll put a link in the description basically going over the reasons you should add a difficult turn and why you shouldn't add a difficult turn, but most of the time you don't need to add a difficult turn. We'll go over these other two at another the road closures and lane guidance. We can go over in another episode because that's more advanced for more advanced users. But there was one other thing that I wanted to add here. So, what happens if you're trying to add a road? Say, for instance, like it's a pavement like this. You can technically add it. We don't normally add private roads. This would be considered a private road. We normally, depending on where you live, because not every region does the same thing. Some regions do private roads for houses based on where you live, but we don't do it here in the city. Sometimes you do have to do it because some place might be like, okay, I live over here, but it keeps telling me to go over here. Then you could add a private road up there, so it kind of fixes it. What happens if you don't have the road and it's like a new place like this? Because there is a new development here. That's why I chose this area for trying to add this segment. So we're gonna go a little bit advanced in here. I will add the link to the script down below, but we use a script called GIS. And once I enable my scripts, I don't really need to save this road, but once we enable my scripts, you're going to see the back end of everything that I edit with. Reload. We'll go into more scripts later on, but this is just for this purpose for GIS, but you can turn it on and off just like this. I'll go in more in depth on how to set up your settings for it and everything else. But this is basically what GIS reports. Basically, it's showing that in this purple line right here, this is the road that should be being built. These blue dots right here are the addresses, and then this right here is the names of the streets. So if we zoom in, we can see this is Bowen Pond Drive right here. And then all of these right here are Long Street. This one's going to be Long Lake Road. This would be now if you see places like this on the map, if you have GIS, I wouldn't just plot those on the map. One, because if you haven't drove over there and you don't see a development being made, don't add it on there because then everybody's gonna try to Waze might try to navigate you over there. Only add places with GIS if you know for sure they're being built. Okay. This is more a little bit advanced, but if you do see like the street like this, like over here or up over here, and it's not on the map, boom, boom, add it onto there. This is also another easy way to get the name of the street, and the addresses because like these places over here don't have house numbers. That's an RPP, which we'll cover over later. But yeah, so this is an easy way to add addresses. I was because a long time ago I used to be like, oh man, how am I going to add all these addresses when I don't know what the addresses are? And then going into Street View, can't always see what the address is because sometimes it blurs it out. But yeah, so this is an easy way to see where the street should be drawn based on what the government and local zoning people or whatever it is, census and all that have added. Like I said, don't add a road unless you know it's 100% sure that it's there. But this, like I said, this is more advanced. I wouldn't worry about this just yet. But yeah, if you do need to add a road, like say for instance you live in a new development like right here, like oh it's not here. This is the GIS is an easy way to add the road and know what the names are for the road. So hopefully you all enjoyed this episode today covering segments and how to add them and how to add the names and knowing what to put in the city and what not to put into a city. And remember, if you have any questions, put comments below or just hit up your local Discord for your local region and ask them and they will definitely help you. So until next time guys, I will see you guys later. Peace.